Have you ever stopped to think about what makes certain moments, or maybe messages, or even people, just unforgettable? Like what makes something really stick in your mind long after it's happened, while other stuff just fades? Welcome to the deep dive. We're all about getting into the insights that, well, really matter. And today we are diving deep into exactly that. The whole art of making an impact, the kind that doesn't just get noticed, but actually lasts. We're exploring a really interesting piece of wisdom today. It's concise, but pretty powerful. Yeah, our source is The Art of Grand Impression. It offers this single, potent idea about how lasting impressions get formed, and, crucially, how they're sustained, strategically. So our mission today, let's unpack this idea. Let's explore the bits and pieces and figure out how this concept of creating spectacles, using big gestures and visuals really leads to what the source calls lasting impressions. We want to get into psychology, maybe some practical angles too, give you a new way to look at those memorable moments. Okay, let's start unpacking that core idea. Right away it says create spectacles. Now when I hear that, my mind kind of goes to, big shows, fireworks, maybe a huge concert or something. But what does the art of grand impression actually mean by creating a spectacle in like a broader sense? Is it all about spending loads of money, or is there something else going on?
That's a great question. And what's really key here is that creating spectacles, it's usually not about the budget, not
Sort of.
primarily. It points more towards intentionality. It's really about designing moments or interactions, designing them so they inherently stand out from the background noise. It's a deliberate choice. You're not just hoping people remember. You're actively trying to engineer memorability. It's about capturing attention and signaling that this moment, this interaction is important.
Signaling importance.
Think about it less like putting on a massive stage production and more like framing an interaction so it just grabs you. It demands attention because of how it's presented, how
Right.
different it feels. Our brains, they're filtering constantly, right?
Yeah.
Everyday stuff, the predictable, it just slides into the background. But a spectacle, that's different. It's distinct. It grabs your attention. It's out of the ordinary. It kind of triggers our brain's novelty detector, that orienting response. Your attention snaps to it because it's significant or new. So it's designed to be noticed, but also, importantly, processed differently. It sort of bypasses the automatic filtering.
Okay, so it cuts through the mental clutter.
Exactly. Whether that's, a really surprising phrase in a speech or maybe an unexpected act of kindness or even just a really clever marketing visual, the whole point is to make that moment feel significant, make it pop.
Right? Deliberate, making it pop. I like that. And this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. The source specifically calls out big gestures and visuals, not just be memorable, but these two tools. Why those two? What is it about something big or something visual that gives it so much power in making an impression, especially one that lasts? Is one more important, or do they work together?
Yeah, you've really nailed a critical aspect there.
Yeah.
Why these two are so effective. If you think about, how our minds work, cognition, memory, all that, both gestures and visuals, they tend to bypass the purely logical, word-based processing part of our brain. Instead, they tap straight into our emotions, our sort of primal recognition systems.
Emotions and recognition.
Precisely. And that makes them incredibly potent tools for communication, sure, but especially for locking things into memory. They just hit us on a deeper, more immediate level. Let's take gestures first. Actions, especially significant actions, these big gestures, they communicate so much more powerfully than just words alone. You can promise something, right? Easy to forget. But an act, that's tangible. And a big gesture, it doesn't have to be some grand physical thing necessarily. It could be a bold, strategic move, like remember when that CEO slashed their own salary during hard times?
Yeah, I do remember that. That made headlines.
Exactly. Or it could be something deeply personal, like arranging a surprise reunion. These actions, they carry real emotional weight. They show commitment. They show intention, character, in a way talking just can't. They demonstrate. They don't just state. And that makes them much harder to ignore or forget. They create this sort of emotional anchor.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Actions speaking louder than words, quite literally embedding the message. I can think of historical moments where one action defined everything.
Okay.
But what about the visuals part? We're swimming in images these days. What makes a visual truly stick?
Right. Then you have visuals. And our brains are just fundamentally biased towards visual information. It's deeply wired. We process images incredibly quickly. Some studies say, 60,000 times faster than text? And they're way easier to remember.
60,000 times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's known as the picture superiority effect in psychology. We just recall pictures better than words, full stop. And visuals, they tend to spark stronger emotional responses. They create these really vivid mental pictures, right? Makes the impression more concrete, easier to access, easier to bring back to mind later. Think about an iconic photo, or a logo, or even just a color. It can instantly trigger a feeling or a memory. They're like mental snapshots.
Snapshots, yeah, I like that.
And here's where they often combine powerfully. A big gesture frequently is visual, or at least it creates a strong visual in our minds. When that CEO takes the pay cut, we see it. Maybe not literally, but we picture it. When an activist stages a dramatic protest, it's the imagery of that action that often sticks, isn't it?
Definitely. The image carries the story.
So the combination really amplifies the whole thing. And big here. It's not always about physical size. It's more about significance, boldness, maybe unexpectedness. A small gesture, if it's perfectly timed and deeply meaningful, can feel absolutely huge in its impact. A simple visual, if it's striking and conveys a powerful idea that hits you emotionally, that's big. It's about the impact, the perceived importance, not just, sheer dimensions.
Impact and perceived importance. Okay.
Right.
So it's about what you do and what people see and how those things are kind of amplified to cut through, which leads us nicely to the ultimate goal here, according to the source, making lasting impressions. Getting attention is one thing, but making sure that impression doesn't just fade away. How do you make it enduring? What's the real key to making it stick around?
Well, the key is really baked into the elements we've just discussed. It's the combination. That intentional spectacle designed to stand out, when it's delivered through those big gestures and vivid visuals, it naturally creates a more lasting impact. Why? Because those components, they get processed more deeply by our brains. They get embedded more securely in our memory networks.
Deeper processing.
Exactly. They don't just skim the surface. They create strong encoding cues, basically, mental hooks that make it much easier to retrieve the memory later on. I mean, think about your own life. Why do certain memories, maybe from years ago, feel so clear while yesterday's lunch is already fuzzy?
Yeah. Good point.
Often it's because those memorable events, whether you realized it or not, tapped into these principles. The vividness, the emotional charge, maybe the sheer surprise or distinctiveness of the spectacle, all reinforced by powerful actions or striking visuals. It creates this really robust mental anchor. And that anchor holds firm against the usual erosion of memory over time. It doesn't just get stored, it actually influences how you perceive things later, maybe your future decisions. It becomes part of your mental landscape, something you can revisit easily.
That's a really powerful idea, embedding versus just exposing. But hang on, sometimes these big gestures or flashy visuals, they can fall flat, can't they? Or worse, maybe they seem fake or manipulative. How do we make sure these spectacles and gestures create a positive, lasting impression, not something that backfires? Is there a trick to that?
That is such a crucial point, because just being big or visual isn't automatically good. It has to feel meaningful. It has to feel authentic. Look at the source title again, The Art of Grand Impression. Art implies skill, right? Nuance. Intent beyond just making noise. For an impression to last in a positive way, the spectacle, the gesture, the visual, it really needs to align with some underlying truth or value or genuine intention.
Alignment.
Yeah. If a big gesture feels like it's just for show, if it feels manipulative, or if a spectacle seems totally hollow, no substance behind it, people pick up on that. Fast. Our BS detectors are pretty well tuned, We sense when things don't line up. If how the spectacle, the gesture, the visual doesn't match the actual message, the real intent, the quality behind it.
Then it breaks down.
Exactly. The impression might be memorable, but maybe for all the wrong reasons. It could even be negative and lasting. Think of a huge advertising campaign for a product that just doesn't deliver. The memory lasts, but it's not a good one. So the nuance is critical. These tools make things memorable, yes, but it's the quality, the authenticity, the alignment that determines the nature of that memory, positive or negative. It's about creating something that resonates emotionally and feels intellectually credible, builds trust, reinforces real impact.
That adds a really vital layer. It's not just about being loud. It's about having something meaningful to say and saying it or showing it in a way that truly connects. Okay, so pulling this all together, what's the big takeaway for us? This seemingly simple phrase from The Art of Grand Impression: create spectacles with big gestures and visuals for lasting impressions. It really seems to capture some deep truths about how we perceive things, how we remember.
It absolutely does. I think the central message boils down to this. If you really want to stand out, if you want to be remembered in a way that's meaningful and sticks around, you need to be intentional. You have to deliberately design moments that break the pattern, that cut through the noise. That's the create spectacles part. And then you need to communicate within those moments using powerful actions and vivid imagery, the big gestures and visual.
Mhm.
It's that combination. That's what ensures your message or your action or your presence isn't just fleetingly noticed, but actually gets retained,
Mm.
encoded, recalled later as a lasting impression.
Mm.
And this isn't just some abstract theory for like marketing gurus or historians. It's really an observation about how we humans are wired, how we naturally process the world and form memories. Whether you're trying to, I don't know, make a key point stick in a work presentation, or connect deeply with someone important to you, or even teach your kid a lesson you really want them to remember, these principles are always there, working under the surface. Memorability rarely happens by accident. It's usually the outcome of choices, conscious or not, that tap into how our brains are built. We remember what stands out. We remember what moves us. We remember what we can clearly picture. Understanding this, well, it gives you a powerful lens, a tool, really, for making genuine impact in a world that's just overflowing with information, ensuring your message, your contribution, truly resonates.
Wow. Yeah, that really reframes it. It's a blueprint for impact, grounded in how we actually work. Fantastic. So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's worth holding on to that core idea, the incredible power you can unlock by intentionally creating those standout moment spectacles, using genuinely meaningful, big gestures and vivid visuals. That's the pathway to forging impressions that truly last. And maybe here's something to chew on after this. Think about your own experiences, your own life, maybe big historical moments you remember clearly. What spectacles? Could be huge public things, could be small but deeply personal actions. Maybe just a single powerful image. What has left the most profound, lasting impression on you? And as you think about it, maybe consider, how did those big gestures or vivid visuals, delivered with that crucial authenticity we talked about, make them so unforgettable? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the art of grand impression. We really hope it's given you some fresh perspective on what makes things stick, what makes them truly memorable and impactful. We'll catch you next time.